Hello, everybody. Welcome to Double D's Fantasy Talk. I'm Daryl,
And I'm Dave.
and we're here to give you some fantasy updates for the week. We'll start by going over Thursday's game. What do you have on that, Dave? What do you think of that?
I just think the hooded one is the best coach to ever live. You can put any quarterback you want in there, and he's going to make them good.
Oh, that's a proven plug-and-play system, not just at quarterback, but any position. Exit Deion Lewis, enter LeGarrette Blount with 2 touchdowns. Oh, Garoppolo goes down. Oh, Jacoby Brissett steps it up.
So were you more impressed with what the Patriots could do with lack thereof name, value, and player, or with the Texans' defense and the lack thereof defense, mainly J.J. Watt?
I'm more impressed with the fact that Denver read Brock Osweiler 100% correct and didn't pay the man.
I'm surprised that they went out, got Lamar Miller, and didn't realize, hey, Miami knew what they had. They had an average running back. And he can't be just plugged into this system and become the franchise. Problem there, you have DeAndre Hopkins. Throw it to the man. Oh, wait, what did you add? Will Fuller? Alert, alert. Why are we banking on Lamar Miller?
Well, free agent running backs rarely transfer over the first year very well. I mean, they go into a new system. You have new blocking schemes, new offenses. What Miami was running was nowhere near what Houston's running now.
Oh, and 9 times out of 10, I agree with you on that. And then I look at a player like Matt Forte, and we have a top 3 fantasy running back right now, especially in PPR. This guy's value has never been higher.
Well, Forte has always been the exception because he's the guy, his type of game transfers to any type of offense. I'm really disappointed myself, being a Dolphins fan, that Miami didn't jump on him. And right now the Bears are wondering why they never paid the man.
Well, and as most of you should know, and if you don't know, we are in Wisconsin, and here's something that's on my mind. Could we send Eddie Lacy to the Patriots and make him become relevant again, or will he just eat himself too many cheeseburgers?
That's Mr. Cheeseburger. Now you're touching on it with Brady in the plug and play. Does this tarnish Brady's legacy, and is this kind of showing that Brady's more of a system quarterback, albeit a very, very good system quarterback? Or is he really the GOAT that some people are giving him status for?
Well, you, sir, you know me better than anyone, and I'm going to tell you this right now. Brady just fell out of my top 5 QBs all time. Easily, hands down. Bill Belichick is the reason year in and year out that team is even relevant.
I mean, you're talking Belichick, greatest coaches all time, any sport. Belichick might be better than Popovich in his respective sport.
I agree. Moving on from there, let's talk about some quarterbacks this week. Who do you have in your top 10 there, Daryl?
Oh, wow. My top 10, I have Breeze number 1 overall. I mean, he's at home going against the Falcons defense that's proven they couldn't stop me throwing the ball. I have Ryan at 2. I'm really high on Tannehill. Like I said, I am a Dolphins fan, but let's face it, they're playing the Browns. Miami has no Arian Foster. They don't like J.I. And Tannehill's the leading rusher. So he's going to throw the heck out of the ball. I think A-Rod recovers. He's at home. Stafford I have at 5. Berger at 6. How do you go against Berger with the best receiver in the game?
Again, Tannehill is the 11th overall ranked QB in fantasy after 2 weeks as well. So, I mean, I'm very high on Tannehill at this point as well.
I agree with that. And then to round it out, you have Rivers. I have Cam at 8. I'd like to put him higher, but hey, even at home, Minnesota's D is for real. They're not going to be a top 10 ranking this week, in my opinion, but only because they're playing Carolina. I'm rounding out with Carson and Eli at 10.
Yes, sir. That is our first Griffin Hawk!
The Griffin Hawk!
Alert. I have Cam Newton as my number 1 QB this week. Cam has never looked better to me. After 2 weeks and the toughest defense that he could face in week 1, not to mention 4 helmet hits, and still puts up the amount of points that he does, I don't think he'll ever fall out of my top 3 this year, barring injury or bye week.
It is very hard to go against Cam. He's put up in an ESPN standard scoring league. He's put up 20 and then 29 in back-to-back weeks. How do you get away from that?
You don't. And I'm very high on Breeze myself. I'm number 2 there. My sleeper here is Big Ben. And everyone's going to look at sleeper, Big Ben, hold the phone. Have you looked at Philadelphia's defense? I'm going to be ecstatic if Big Ben gets himself 3 touchdowns this week, because what you need to look out for by the end of the year, my bold prediction made right here, and you're going to hear it first, folks. Philadelphia's defense will finish top 4 by the end of the year in fantasy scoring.
That's a bold prediction there, Dave. That's a bold prediction, but that's what we're all about.
That's what is separating us from the other guys. Oh, who's Matthew Berry? Mr. 06010? Yeah, well, we're talking about the 920 here today, folks, and you're going to have a great day. We got a lot in store for you. We're going to go through our flexes. We're going to go through the games, and I think that's great. Let's start with the Raiders-Titans. How do you feel about that there?
Oh, Raiders-Titans. Well, you know, the Titans' D is better than everybody gives them credit for, and the Raiders' defense, I know they had some big free agent signings. They didn't pan out so far. Khalil Mack kind of disappeared. I have Titans over Raiders 24-17 with DeMarco having a good game. 5 catches, over 100 total yards. I think Tajay Sharp's going to show up.
Love that young fella. Love that young fella.
Yes, he's a great sleeper out of nowhere this year. A lot of people didn't even draft him early on. He's going to turn into a stud. He gets targeted, especially if Delaney doesn't play or plays limited snaps.
Yes, Delanie Walker is the key factor in this game, everyone. It won't even be close if Delanie Walker is not in this game. Marcus Mariota, he's almost average. This guy, he gets made to look better than he is. The offensive line is rebuilt. It is strong for DeMarco Murray. Delanie Walker is an amazing tight end. I have him top 3 every week right now, as long as he is playing in the game. Amari Cooper, though. I think Amari Cooper is going to take over this game. He's going to dominate this game. His presence on the field already gives the Raiders an edge. His athleticism, you can't compare it. You just can't compare it. This young fella, he is so good. He is so good. I have Raiders 24, Titans 21.
No, I agree with you on the Amari Cooper. He's a high pick, especially in a keeper league. You're looking at Amari Cooper. Who do you keep as a young wide receiver if you're going keeper? He's my number 1 keeper as a wide receiver, other than an Antonio Brown or Julio, but they're older.
Oh, absolutely. Do you want the old bones, or are you looking to win this year, or are you looking to win for 4
Right,
years?
exactly. You're looking ahead, you're looking at this year. Okay, what else we got here? We got Ravens-Jaguars.
Ravens-Jags. I have the Jags 17, Ravens 14. Very defensive matchup here. Heavy on the defense here. I have AR-15 having his breakout week. Week 1 against Green Bay. He dropped 2 in the end zone. He's going to make that up this week with 105 yards and a TD, and Julius is going to complement it with at least 65 yards and a touchdown himself.
See, I'm close with you on that one, Dave. I have Ravens 16, Jaguars 10. I'm not so much sold on Allen Robinson. Well, I guess. I don't doubt Allen Robinson's ability. I'm not sold on Blake Bortles. The Ravens have a tough defense.
We'll get into Bortles later.
We'll get into Bortles later. I'm not quite sold on him. I think Pitta is going to continue his breakout year. He's going to be the Gary Barnidge of tight ends this year.
You actually mentioned him to me today, and he wasn't on my radar. And you know what? You're swaying me his way. Dennis Pitta is a big target.
Pitta had 9 catches on 12 targets the other week for over 100 yards. I have him getting 7+ catches and a touchdown this week. I think Tucker is going to be the Ravens MVP most of this year. And like I said, I think Pitta continues to break it out. He's a good dump-down target for Flacco.
Absolutely. Much love and much respect on that forecast there. That forecast leads us into the Redskins and Giants. How do you feel with that ODB Josh Norman matchup? And the only spot on the field that Josh Norman will not defend is apparently the slot, which we know Mr. Young Buck himself, Sterling Shepard, is playing very well from that slot position.
Well, I don't think we're going to see what we saw last year with the Norman ODB. I know it's OBJ, but I keep calling him ODB because I'm a Wu-Tang fan, so that's who he is to me. And this is going to be the first game this year that we're actually going to see Josh Norman play the way he should. Instead of trying to shut down the side of the field, you got to put your best corner on the best receiver, in my opinion. You need to shut him down, but the Giants just have so many weapons. I see Giants 35, Redskins 27. I know the Giants D's been playing well this year. I think Kirk Cousins finally gets his head out of his butt, makes a couple throws. Josh Reed's going to have a good game. 7+ catches, a touchdown. I'm going out on there. I think Sterling Shepard is going to be the wide receiver over ODB just because ODB is going to get shadowed by Norman. Is he going to shut him down? No, but he's going to limit him. It's like Michael Jordan. You didn't stop him, but if you held him to 25, you were happy. Okay, Sterling Shepard, 2 touchdowns, 100 yards.
I agree. Jordan Reed, for those of you at home, is going to have a very good day. Absolutely a very good day. I have the Giants here 24-10. Why? The Giants' defense is magnificent. If you watched last week's game, they put on a clinic on how to hold down the fort at home when your offense is stagnant.
Especially against the high-powered Saints offense, although Drew Brees does struggle away from New Orleans.
If you're going to be an elite QB, you need to win on the road.
I agree. And that leads us into elite QBs on the road at home. Lions-Packers. What's up with Aaron Rodgers?
Oh, the bad man himself, says Stephen A. Smith.
Relax, Dave. Relax.
Yeah. I'll relax when fans pull their heads out of their cheesecakes, maybe their cheese heads. You know what I'm saying here? I'm not an Aaron Rodgers fan. For those of you that don't know, I'm a Steelers faithful, and it is awful having to live in Wisconsin and live that Super Bowl moment over and over and over when the most overrated quarterback ever got a ring.
You mean Captain Checkdown?
Oh, I was just going to say, you took the words
Captain
out
Checkdown.
of my mouth. Oh, don't get me wrong. I give the Packers credit where credit is due, but here's one simple thought for you, Packer Nation. Matt Forte becomes a free agent, and the Packers don't even want to give him a workout for $4 million a year. How's that running game working out for you, Cheesehead Nation?
Well, they like cheeseburgers better, Dave. That's what it comes down to. I have Lions 31, Packers 24, and the only reason the Packers get 24 is because Aaron Rodgers does play better at home. He does struggle on the road. I think he has a halfway decent game. Stafford, I think, is the real deal. With Mr. Cooter running the offense, Stafford has been a fantasy quarterback stud. I put him at 350-ish yards passing, 3 touchdowns. Marvin Jones Jr., breakout wide receiver of the year. I love this man. He gets targeted all day. I put him with a couple touchdowns, 100-plus yards.
That is a very bold statement saying Marvin Jones, breakout player of the year there. I do like your boldness.
Breakout wide receiver.
I do like Sterling Shepard a tenfold over him more to be breakout player of the year there. Packers 28, Lions 24. I have Mr. Theo Reddick being the workhorse this week with Abdullah out 4-6 with that. I believe it is an ankle injury. I have Theo Reddick 102 yards, 2 TDs. Jordy Nelson finally showing you what he can do. Mr. Aaron Rodgers is in his neighborhood for 115 and 2 touchdowns. Let's talk about the Dolphins-Brown. You are a Dolphin faithful, is that correct, Mr. Darrow?
Yes, Mr. Dave. Speaking of being a Steeler fan stuck in Wisconsin, that's just as bad as being a Dolphin fan stuck in Wisconsin and getting these cheeseheads rammed down your throat on a repeated basis. Okay, they're playing the Browns. The Browns are down to their third-string quarterback when their first-string quarterback wasn't very good to begin with. Corey Coleman's out. I think that's huge for him. You know, Isaiah Crowell, he's going to be a workhorse because they have nothing else. Terrell Pryor's not the answer at wide receiver. Josh Gordon's not back yet. Like I said, Tannehill, he's the leading rusher for their whole team.
Let's stop there. How do you feel about this third-string quarterback and Josh Gordon coming back? Will Josh Gordon even be effective with this quarterback under helm?
I like Josh Gordon better if Corey Coleman's there and McCown is the starter. But with him being hurt, I don't know what we're getting out of this guy. This isn't like the Patriots where you can just plug in a quarterback and he's going to produce.
Well, I don't like to drink Kessler, and I don't like to play Kessler. So fans out there, I don't suggest messing with Kessler.
Ever. I got Tannehill having a big game. Like I said, he's my third-ranked quarterback. Devontae Parker, I think he's the real deal at wideout. I love Jarvis Landry, but Parker's going to stretch the field. Couple touchdowns against this Browns team. And I do believe, Dave, we made this our eliminator pick.
This is our eliminator pick. We are starting here week 3. For those of you who don't know us in person, we just started this podcast this week. We are going to do an eliminator survival. Some of you may know it as different terminologies. Pick each week, and we are going to go with the Dolphins this week.
How do you not, Dave? They're at home. They're coming against a tough loss where they almost had to come back against New England. And let's face it, they're playing the Browns.
Yes, I have the Dolphins shutting the Browns out 30-0 in this game.
I'm very close, 38-10 Miami.
I do believe we have three more noon games to discuss,
sir.
And then we will be getting on to the afternoon games here. How do you feel about the Broncos-Cincinnati Bengals game here?
Well, the Broncos D, they're for real. Trevor Siemian, well, he's not any worse than what they had last year in Peyton Manning or Brock Osweiler. Exactly why they didn't pay him. I have Broncos 22, Bengals 17, C.J. Anderson. He's a workhorse. I stayed away from him in fantasy drafts. I was wrong.
I'm a little worried in this game. The Broncos losing DeMarcus Ware is a huge defensive piece here. A very, very key piece of that defensive line. I have this game 14-10, very low scoring. I think Simeon comes around as the year goes on. He has not looked bad. But the one thing he cannot do is find Emmanuel Sanders wide open. The only thing more frustrating than that is being an Antonio Brown owner and having Michael Vick or Landry under
Jones,
helmet and the
exactly.
fastest wide receiver in the game and not being able to put it in his mitts. I do have Simeon throwing one touchdown with 2 picks for 205. DT plays. He's going to be his factor. He's going to score a touchdown. He's still a must start as long as he's there. This is a game that we can move on from. There's not a lot of highlights to talk here. Red Rocket's Red Rocket. AJ Green.
Although the Red Rocket does struggle under pressure, I think they get enough pressure on him even with DeMarcus being out. I agree.
That's huge. Denver does get scored on, but they find a way to win games.
That's true. Vikings-Panthers, Dave, what do you have there?
I have 28-13 Panthers over Vikings, the number 1 QB in the league by far. I'm going to make this my bold prediction of the week, and it comes with a Griffin Hoare! Cam Newton will score 35 standard points this week against the tough defense of the Minnesota Vikings. Put it in the book.
That is definitely worthy of a Griffin Hoare prediction. He's been close. He hit 29 last week in ESPN Standard. I have Panthers 20, Vikings 10. I think the defenses are good enough. AP, guess what? He hasn't been a factor all year, so them losing him doesn't really matter. The only player I really, really like other than, hey, you don't sit your studs. You got to play your Cam Newton. You got to play your Calvin Benjamin. I think Greg Olson's going to have a decent game. I think he's going to get a touchdown.
He's a top 3 tight end every week.
Like I said, you don't sit your studs. Certain players, regardless of matchups, you have to play them.
I think Diggs finds the end zone. He proved himself last week against the Green Bay secondary that is very good. He had a very, very big game. I have him only getting 50 yards with 5 catches because, again, this is a whole new bag of worms when you're talking about the Panthers' defense compared to the Packers'
I like
defense.
to see Diggs have a good game, and, I think it comes down to Bradford. I kind of thought they overpaid for him, but Bradford at this point, if he can stay healthy, has proven to be the best quarterback the Vikings have had, minus the 1 year of Brett Favre.
Oh, and he is turning some heads right now, and I agree with you. I don't think you're alone in this world on saying that you feel that they overpaid for him, and you know what? He stays healthy, and he can give them not only the wild card, but he can clinch the division. Sorry, Cheesehead Nation.
I agree with you there, Dave. I still like the Vikings to win their division. I don't see the Packers doing it. They've been struggling on offense, and their defense has kept them in games so far. And let's face it, the refs gave a little bit of help throughout the year, like they always do. For some reason, the NFL loves them some cheese.
Something I'd like to talk about in this game, obviously the whole world knows that Adrian Peterson has to have surgery, and he's going to be out quite some time, if not the whole season here. How do you feel with the Jarrett McKinnon, Matt Asiata, Ronnie Hillman three-headed monster that's coming into play here in Minnesota?
I think at this point, McKinnon's going to get the majority of the touches. Hillman's not going to be a big factor this week. Asiata's going to get some goal line work, but against this defense, I don't like any of those running backs. I really feel as long as Adrian Peterson doesn't come back in the next 6 or 7 weeks, which is pretty unlikely at this point, I see Hillman taking over the starting job within the next 3-4 weeks.
I think our consensus of a suggestion here is if you got to play anyone from Minnesota, it's PPR and you're playing McKinnon. I wouldn't even flex Asiata this week. Carolina locks down on the goal line. They don't allow people to get in. I think my favorite scorer in this game for the Vikings is Blair Walsh.
I would go with that. It's really hard to pick a Vikings running back. Their offensive line struggled. Matt Khalil's out now. That's going to be the key to keeping Bradford healthy.
Speaking of struggles, how about that Rams-Tampa game? I mean, Todd Gurley had to be a top 5 pick in almost any drafted money league here. And I just look at him as a player that I know we skipped a noon game. I have to get into this. I'm a Todd Gurley owner. I'm a Todd Gurley faithful. I just need to know, can he break it out against Tampa this week? Tampa has a decent run D. I have him 6 overall. I have him getting 100 yards, touchdown. He's got to do it. I traded a lot for him. I traded Zeke and Lamar Miller in a 3-keeper league to go get myself Todd Gurley, and I need Todd Gurley to go get myself some points.
You know, Todd Gurley, regardless of standard PPR, he was pretty much a consensus top 5 pick. I have him 9. This is going to be the week to me that he's got to prove it. The Bucs D, they're decent, but the Rams offense, let's face it, we're looking at the Cleveland Browns passing game here, guys. Gurley, I think he continues to struggle. I know I have him ranked 9th, and that's more, I'm going on Gurley's reputation, hoping he finally has a breakout. I don't think it happens. I have Buccaneers 17, Rams 6. Sims is going to be the offensive player to own. Tampa's D is going to force a couple turnovers. Gurley continues the struggle. It is real.
Charles Sims is a must start this week in all formats. He will be a workhorse even against that Los Angeles defense.
Charles Sims, I have him borderline top 10. I do believe I have him right now ranked 11
he's a
PPR.
He's a high-end RB2.
I'm with you on that.
RB1
100%.
if you're hurting with these injuries 100%. That have happened out there.
I don't blame you for skipping this noon game, Dave, because let's face it, Cardinals-Bills, even in Buffalo.
Mr. Rex Ryan.
Rex Ryan, Rob Ryan, they deserve a Griffin Horse.
Griffin Horse!
We have one of the most inept coaches in the league. I like Rex Ryan. He likes to run his mouth. He's a great defensive coordinator. As a coach, not so much. Rob Ryan, guess what? He's living off of his dad's reputation. Rob Ryan comes in, takes over defenses, and makes them worse, guys. How does he keep getting jobs? I don't get this. I have Cardinals 41, Bills 16. Shady's going to be the only offense the Bills have. Tyrod's not the answer. Fitzgerald's going to have 2 touchdowns, I'm thinking. And the only reason he doesn't get more is because it's a blowout, and they're just going to workhorse David Johnson in the second half.
I agree with 99% of what you just said there. I have the score 35-10. The thing that we differentiate in this game, Daryl, in my PPR rankings, I have LaShawn McCoy 25. You heard it right. I have him 25. I'm not a LaShawn McCoy believer.
I have Shady 10. That's our biggest difference that we were kind of looking at. And the only reason I have Shady 10 is, guess what? I think he's going to get dumped off too a lot. You know, with Watkins being hurt, who else they targeted? Charles Clay? Nah, not really.
I agree, but I'm going to stay home with it because I believe that the Cardinals' defense is immaculate, and they're going to shut Shady McCoy down. Less than 50 total yards. You can put it in the books.
We shall see, Dave. This might be one of those where one of us has to drink a punishment shot. You guys might have to write in for punishment shots on certain picks where Dave and I really differ. You got to pick a side, take a punishment shot.
In the future, we will have gamble picks, and in these gamble picks, the loser will have to do a punishment, whether it be a ridiculous amount of 151, doing a polar plunge into an ice-cold lake, great cause for that, getting shot by a paintball gun from point-blank range.
Very painful,
frozen paintball.
Very painful.
So that'll be something for the future. You got to keep listening to our podcast. We will eventually turn this into a YouTube channel. We will also upload our rankings to social media. You can go on there and check them out. We hope you follow along. We got much to go through still today. I hope you guys are enjoying this podcast.
We're just getting into the 3 o'clock games here. You covered the Rams, Bucks. What do you think about Niners, Seahawks?
Niners, Seahawks here. Well, in this game, I have it very low scoring. You and I differentiate in this game as well. I do believe Russell Wilson's ankle is still hurt, and he's going to be a no-show. He has no run game right now. I have Rawls and Michaels getting less than 125 total yards in this game with no touchdowns. I have the score 10-3, and the best player on the field is Steven Hauschka with 150-yard field goal.
How do you go against Hauschka? He's one of the top kickers. I have Seahawks 24, Niners 3, mainly because they're in Seattle. I think they thrive off their defense. They force a couple turnovers. Russell finally comes back, has a decent game, over 300 total yards between rushing and passing. I can't go against them at home. Not against the weak Niners team. They shut down Carlos Hyde.
I don't know, the 49ers defense is looking tough, and they can score. Last week playing Carolina, I said if they would have only allowed 20 points, I would have added them as a backup defense. They allowed 11 more than I wanted, but still to hold their own with the type of team that is built around, no one had them on their radar unless you were already a San Francisco 49er fan.
The big question, does Kaepernick kneel?
I'll tell you this, I'm not getting into politics on this podcast.
No, sir. Steelers-Eagles.
You know me. I'm a Steeler faithful. This is going to be an outpouring of points from the Steelers. I did say he'd be lucky to get his 3 touchdowns, and I would be happy to have Big Ben get them because I am very high on the Eagles defense. But you're talking about the number 1 team in football right now. Put it in the books with the Pittsburgh Steelers. I have Ben Roethlisberger with 350-plus all-purpose yards, 3 touchdowns. Antonio Brown getting out of his slump from last week where he was held to only 2 catches. He will have 100 yards or more with 2 touchdowns, and the fantasy owners that have him can rejoice in victory.
I'm with you on this one, Dave. The Steelers have best offense in the league, most well-balanced in my opinion, and they have a very improved defense. I have Steelers 37, Eagles 24.
If only they could stay off the weed.
Yeah. Come on, Le'Veon.
Come on, Martavis.
Let's stay away from the Josh Gordon train. Carson Wentz.
Johnny Manziel.
Carson Wentz. The only reason I have the Eagles getting 24 is Carson Wentz. You know what? They showed why they traded up for him. He's the real deal at quarterback. I think he continues his season, proving himself that he should have been the number 1 pick instead of Jared Goff. Jordan Matthews has another good game. He's getting mass amounts of targets.
Also on Carson Wentz, the only rookie to start 2-0 with no interceptions in his first 2 games.
Since 1970.
That is quite the feat.
That's quite a feat.
If Dak Prescott would have got his W week 1, we would have had 2 in the same year.
Oh, I'd like me some Dak. Let's talk about Jets-Chiefs.
Jets-Chiefs here. I have a very close game. Now we need to talk about injuries here a little bit. Jamal's looking to be doubtful. Brandon Marshall had that gruesome knee injury that he played through, which makes me think he's going to play this week. So I'm going to be banking on my Jets pick here. 24-21 with the Jets. Eric Decker averages a touchdown every 7.1 catches. I put him at 8 receptions this game with a touchdown. Ryan Fitzpatrick doing what he does best, making sure he gets his yards with 350 and 2 touchdowns.
I have Chiefs 24, Jets 17. Kansas City historically is tough at Arrowhead. I agree. I don't see Jamal playing. Forte, we were talking about Forte. He's Matt Forte. Mm-hmm. You don't sit your studs. You're going to play Mr. Forte. He's going to have a good game. The Chiefs, guess what? Spencer Ware, this isn't really his week. The Jets' run D is pretty solid. I still take him at home. Kelsey's going to have a decent game. He's going to be a tough stop. I just can't. I like Forte. Brandon Marshall's injury scares me. I see the Chiefs taking it in a close game. Chargers-Colts.
Chargers-Colts here. We got Andrew Luck with a sore shoulder here. We had a lot of injuries. You lose Keenan Allen. It's so tough for the Chargers. You lose Danny Woodhead. And Phillip Rivers just finds a way to persevere. I have the Chargers going 31-21 on the Colts. Melvin Gordon having 100-plus yards all-purpose with 2 touchdowns. And the guy that comes out of nowhere to help people with the free agency ads, Tyrell Williams, 100 yards plus and a touchdown. This guy looks fantastic, Daryl.
I agree. I really like me some Tyrell Williams. He's taking over Keenan Allen's spot. Phillip Rivers, Melvin Gordon's finally coming around a little bit, but you wonder how Rivers perseveres. Well, this is the story of Rivers' life, is all these injuries. It always happens. He still throws the heck out of the ball. I see him pushing 400 yards here. Chargers 38, Colts 17. Luck struggles, couple picks. If you got him in a fantasy league, I'm sorry, you still have to start Mr. Luck. I don't like him this week. And I think that rounds up our afternoon games. We're getting into Sunday night here. We got Bears, Cowboys, the Bears. The Bears deserve a big Griffin whore for How do you let Matt Forte go? How do you? Cowboys 24, Bears 9. I don't even like them cutting Robbie Gold, so I'm going to give him credit for the 9 points the Bears put up. And Dak's the real deal. I think Romo comes back in a couple weeks, going to get hurt again. That's what Romo does.
Ghost player scores 9.
Ghost player scores 9. I like that,
the Cowboys 28, Bears 9. Elshon was looking to have himself a semi-decent year, and I've heard a lot of analysts say Hoyer's not that much of a downgrade from Cutler. Here's some news. He is. And here's what I have. I have Zeke with 100 yards and a touchdown. No fumbles this week. Jerry Jones glued that ball to his hands. I bet you that. Witten will get himself somewhere above 50 yards and a touchdown. This game won't even be close. Dak's going to look better than he really is. And Tony Romo is going to worry if he's going to have a job when he wakes up in the morning.
I agree. Dak is, well... They kind of had to have a talk with him, and they're like, hey, you have a Dez. You can't target him 5 times like they did week 1. I know he had the touchdown taken away week 1. Dez has another good game. Dak continues his emergence as a QB.
We're looking for Dez to have a breakout game. He had an average game last week, but he still isn't coming up to what his value was in drafts. I do believe it is only going to get better there. I like what I'm seeing out of Dak Prescott, and he's actually looking for Dez Bryant more than twice a game.
Now we're getting to that Monday night game. We're rounding up the games for the week. We got Falcons Saints in New Orleans. Where are you going here, Dave?
I have the Saints winning this one in a barn burner, 38-34. I have Drew Brees throwing 325 yards, 4 touchdowns. Hootin' tootin' Julio Jones having 100 yards and 2 TDs. But again, who dat? They are in New Orleans.
And Breeze is a monster at home. I agree with you. I think we're going to see something similar to what happened when the Raiders came to town earlier this year. 41-31 Saints. I have Breeze going off for over 400, 5 touchdowns because, I'm sorry you drafted Mark Ingram. He ain't getting the ball here, guys. Matt Ryan's going to continue his streak of passer rating over 100 versus the Saints, extend it to 5 games. He's going to push 400 yards. I really like the passing game for both these teams here. Neither team has a defense. They're going to throw the heck out of the ball, both teams. It's going to be high scoring.
Well, there's 2 things that I'd like to do here before I wrap up our podcast. There's one little segment that we're going to do each week. It's going to be called the Belichick or Bust. This is going to be your boom or bust player. Give me a flyer, possibly from a flex list that you might have that someone might be contemplating putting in their lineup that has a high ceiling, but they could really bust if they don't perform. So there's your warning.
That one's really hard to pick one, but I'm a Dolphins fan. They're playing the Browns. I'm going with Devontae Parker. That's my boomer bust player of the week, especially you're rolling in DFS. You can get him super cheap.
Or bust player of the week. I am going to go myself there. I'm going to go with, I'm going to take a flyer here. I'm going to go with Mike Wallace. I like Mike Wallace a lot. He's found the end zone the first 2 weeks. He does nothing but score. He might only get you 4 to 5 catches in that game, but for some reason, he keeps finding the end zone. You can put it on me if he doesn't get it for you, but I do believe he will. I think we're going to sign this off with a one big hoorah.
Hoorah. Griffin Hoare!
Hey, thank you very much for tuning into Double D's podcast. I'm Dave.
And I'm Daryl.
You guys have a good week, and hopefully you win.